The Georgia Bulldogs are a heavy favorite over Charlotte this weekend for an early kick, 12:45, 1 o'clock Eastern Time. So what would be a successful day for Georgia? Coming off a couple of big wins in the conference. Now they're done with the conference, 7-1 in SEC play. They're playing a Charlotte team that's coming in here with a 1-9 record, have been blown out in a ton of games, have really only been in a couple of games this year in the American Conference. Georgia's a heavy favorite, right? It's in the 40s. It's probably going to end up being close to 50 by the time the weekends, if I am correct. But what would a successful day mean for Georgia? I think there are a few things that we would consider to be successful days for Georgia. Now, at the end of the day, a win's a win, right? And you got to chug them along. And they've got Georgia Tech on Black Friday, so they'll have one fewer day to prepare for the Yellow Jackets for a meeting in Atlanta. But I think there are a few things that you could point out and say, hey, against Charlotte, this happened. This was a positive day for Georgia outside of, hey, look, they just got a big win over the 49ers. They just got, they got out of there with the win. That would be number one, and I'll get into the rest of them. Number one is winning the game, no matter what the score. The rest of them, after I introduce myself, Ryan Curley from Dawg Post. Thank you for coming in. Make sure you're checking out our partner Sales Hatch. I'll barcode them, the barcode periodically, the QR code throughout this video. So make sure you're going and checking them out and what they could do for you sales-wise. So outside of winning this game, what would constitute a very good day for Georgia? And I think another thing I'm not going to spend much time on, but it's injuries, right? That's something that's not in control, right? Winning the game is in control. Getting certain players reps, that's in control. And uncontrollable is if someone gets hurt, right? There's not a lot of power you have over whether or not that happens. Chauncey Bowens got hurt last game. He's considered day-to-day. CJ Allen got hurt against Texas as well. He's considered week to week, right? Kirby's been pretty vague. He's usually the more important the player, and CJ Allen is a very important player for this Georgia Bulldogs team, the more vague he's going to be about their injury status and when they might return. So I don't know when CJ Allen might return. I don't really think Chauncey Bowens is going to play this week, if we're being quite frank. So clean, injury-free game, that's an uncontrollable, but it would constitute a successful day, right? It would add into, hey, if they win, if it's injury-free, that would be a successful day. Something I want to talk about a little bit more is not taking the foot off the gas. And that is going to be something that can be accomplished on Monday, on Tuesday, on Wednesday, and on Thursday, and on Friday, and on game day Saturday. Kirby at the press conference on Monday yesterday, he was talking about how, look, they're prepared for Charlotte. They're not worried about Gunner's Heisman chances. They're not worried about the SEC championship and the possibility of getting that game. They're not worried about Georgia Tech right now. They're worried about Charlotte. And he talked about how it needs to be taken seriously, right? And he's saying that because he knows that all of us are going to come on here and talk about how easy of a game this is going to be for Georgia. And Vegas thinks that Georgia's going to win by a super large margin. And that's probably going to be true. But they can't just take their foot off the gas and ignore it, right? I think Ole Miss did that against Washington State at home earlier this year. I think that's an example of, hey, they were looking ahead at that Georgia game the week later, didn't play their best football. Georgia doesn't have to play its best football. I don't think that would necessarily, you don't want to play your best football against Charlotte. You want to play your best football as much as you can, but on Tuesday, on Bloody Tuesday, are they going to take it as seriously as they normally do? Even if they're not going as hard, is it going to be taken seriously? On Wednesday, on Thursday, when they do their walkthroughs, are they going to treat it seriously and not take their foot off the gas and treat it as an important game? At the end of the day, it is an important game. It's senior day. That's what makes it special. There is a real possibility that this is the last game for a lot of players in the red and black in Sanford Stadium, right? And that you're going to see that across college football over these next couple of weeks, the senior days, and how special it is to have the place that you consider your football home. And it's special for the campus and for the crowd as well. So treating it like it's any other game and not taking their foot off the gas, that starts in practice and then it goes into game day. We saw Georgia didn't play its best ball against Austin Peay earlier in the season. 28-6, I think, was the final score of that game. Yes. and the offense it wasn't explosive. They scored a touchdown in each quarter, right? It was 21-6 heading into the final quarter. Just wasn't Georgia's best football. They ran the ball. They ran it for 40 times, and they just wanted to get out of there. You'll probably see a similar game script, but I think a Georgia team that's rolling right now, coming off of two huge wins, 41-21 over Mississippi State in Starkville, and then punishing Texas in the fourth quarter to go on to win 35-10. I think you're going to see this is what Georgia's doing in November right now. They are playing at a very high level, and it probably will bleed into this game. It certainly needs to bleed into a game against Georgia Tech the following week, but like I said, that's not what the team at least says it's concerned about, right? Because that would be looking ahead, and I think that can get you. Georgia's not going to lose this game to Charlotte. Charlotte's a bad team. Charlotte would already be considered a team that can't compete with Georgia, but it's a team that's really not competing in the American Conference this season. Its closest results this year, outside of its win against Monmouth, 28-17 loss at home against Rice, 24-7 loss at Army, and then a 28-7 loss at home against UTSA. The rest of them have been blowouts, or 20-point wins, or 3-score wins, right? Whatever you want to consider a blowout. Those other games, and that's a 3-score win, 28-7. So I was just giving them a little bit of leeway there. But this is a Charlotte team that's not very good. So what is the kind of the last thing I think would be a successful day for Georgia? It's getting the young guys playing time, getting them real reps, getting them into kind of some real offense and not just getting in there running the ball. That starts with Ryan Puglisi. We saw it last year. You see it all over college football. You see it in sports in general. Someone can get hurt, and that could be Gunnar Stockton, especially with his play style. I don't expect to see Gunnar Stockton running the ball a ton on Saturday to prevent injury, right, at this point in the season. But Carson Beck got hurt in the conference championship. Gunnar Stockton to go in. Georgia wins that game, and part of that is because Gunnar Stockton helped them out in that second half. But you don't want to lose the guy that you have partially built the offense around, and that's the case with Gunnar Stockton. If something were to happen, Ryan Puglisi has barely played. Right? He didn't play last year, and now this year, I'm trying to pull up his numbers because I did not memorize. He's 9 for 16, so he's had 16 attempts this year. Georgia hasn't been in as many blowouts, hasn't done that as much, so he hasn't gotten as many reps. These reps matter because you're getting a different look, and you're actually in a stadium environment and feel. Now, for younger players and just Georgia in general, they probably value, and Kirby has straight up said it, he said it either heading into Marshall game or heading into the Austin Peay game or around that 2-week stretch at the beginning of the season. Kirby talked about how, look, they practice so tough, they have such good players on the scout team, that practice is more difficult than some of these games, and those reps are more valuable sometimes than game reps. So yes, Ryan Puglisi's getting those practice reps all year long, but game reps matter too, and you want to see him in there, in the real jersey, in the real stadium, against someone that's not his opponent, even if they're not as talented as Georgia's third or fourth string, and getting real reps. He's got a touchdown and 2 interceptions. One of the interceptions, whatever, erase it. It was a chunk play at the end of the second half of the Tennessee game. But he's only got 16 attempts as a Georgia Bulldog quarterback so far. And if something were to happen to Gunnar Stockton, how confident are you in Ryan Puglisi? I think that this extends to Dwight Phillips Jr., right? We might not see Chauncey Bowens this week. He's a young running back that has 28 touches or 28 rushes this year. And I think they want to get him more involved this weekend. Bo Walker, another running back. Wide receivers, I think you're going to see a heavy dose of Sokovie White. I think you're going to see a heavy dose of Elias Williams at tight end. Probably not Talon Taylor because we haven't seen the injury report yet. But you're going to see younger guys. C.J. Allen's not going to play. He's not going to play this week unless there's some just unforeseen situation. So you're going to see Zayden Walker rotate in more as a true freshman, right? You've seen him rotate in a little last week. You're probably going to see more of that this coming week. Younger DBs like Brayshawn Jenkins. You're going to see other depth pieces like Ella Madozi, Darren Ikenagbon, not Gabe Harris. Isaiah Gibson, excuse me. You're going to see younger guys get in and get real game reps that are, look, at the end of the day, their hearts are probably pumping a little bit when they get in there, right? And it's different than practice. So I think that would constitute a pretty successful day for Georgia. All of those things, Georgia's going to win this game. I don't know by how much. I don't know if they're going to cover whatever the big line is. I got to think about that. It doesn't really matter to me. Lines never really did. We just do the picks for content. But I think that a successful day for Georgia would look like that. Those things I listed out. Injury-free, keeping the foot on the gas, getting the depth in there and taking it seriously. That's what you want out of Georgia on Saturday. All right, riding home. We'll see you there. We'll see you all the post-game stuff, but there's plenty of content to give you this weekend. Final feelings, picks, Five for Friday, all that coming towards you.